What is up, everybody? It's Ed Gow Jr. here from Dad Central, hanging out with Drew Sullivan from Dad Central. What's going on, Drew?
Well, good morning, Ed. Another great day, another great conversation. I think for today, I'm just really excited to learn. So that's what I'm looking forward to today.
Great stuff. And we're here for another great episode of the Dad Central Show. And let's remember always the Dad Central Show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man because when men care for themselves and others, there is positive impact. So, Drew, we're going along this journey, and it just gets better and better all the time.
It does. And I think it gets better and better because we have these conversations where, we've got these dads who are coming and sharing their experiences. And I take something practical, something I can use every single one. And we just get to build great, partnerships along the way as we learn from these men. So, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, not only great partnerships, like for example, with Dove Men Plus Care, but building great relationships with these fathers is really a great thing because I'm very much relationship based. For me, it all starts with relationships, and it's great to build relationships with not only these fathers, but we're speaking other fathers around the world with the heart work that everyone is doing with this. So today we have a special friend, and I was boasting to people that we were going to have this gentleman. We've actually had him on the platform before, and what a pro! I mean, but a great human being. Yes, people know this gentleman a lot from doing sports broadcasting, but just a really decent human being and a really good human. So we're very blessed today to have. When I said this gentleman's name, a lot of people went, "Hello." That's the first thing they went. So we have Jack Armstrong, color commentator for the Toronto Raptors, with us today. Good day, Jack. How we doing?
Ed, Drew, thrilled to be on with you. I thoroughly enjoyed the last time I was on with you and the good folks at Dove, and happy to be on today as well.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, we're thankful, and we were speaking before we started to record this that we thought you had downtime. You're not in downtime yet.
Not yet, no. Obviously, I work for both MLSE and TSN, and busy time right now working the NBA Finals for TSN, and obviously even MLSE because they own NBA TV Canada, so doing hits for that. So yeah, talking about the NBA Finals and on the radio all the time, talking about it as well. So, yeah, no, it's still busy. And then we have the draft coming up and then free agency. And finally, then things calm down a little bit in the summertime. And then things ramp up again at the end of September with training camp.
Wonderful. Well, Drew, let's start the conversation, man.
Well, normally I'd love to start the conversation, get a little bit of the backstory, a little bit of the history of our guests, right? And so we think that really helps people connect with kind of their experience, maybe growing up, might be some similarities to you, and then we can build off of that. So I'd love, Jack, if you could just talk to us a little bit more about the early years for you and what was life like for you growing up.
Well, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm the youngest of four boys. My dad died when I was 7. My oldest brother was 14. My mom raised 4 boys. She was a school lunch lady at PS 238 in Brooklyn. And we lived in a very, modest lifestyle. I mean, we lived in an apartment building in Brooklyn, and I slept on the same pull-out couch as my brother Brendan, and
Wow.
didn't have a lot growing up. But we had each other. We had a lot of love. We had an incredible mom. My mom's 95 right now. She's doing great. She lives in New York. I literally spoke to her right before I got on this with you guys, and she's my hero. So it's funny, like when people say, you know, the ins and outs, the do's and don'ts of being a dad. Well, I really didn't have a dad. My mom kind of drove the bus and raised us, and I had 3 older brothers that kind of showed the way by example. But I had an incredible childhood because I had an incredible mom and 3 brothers who I love dearly. and we hung in there and survived and got through it. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. So to me, uh, she's an inspiration to me, and kind of who I am and what I'm about. A lot of it is a reflection of her deep beliefs and conviction, and she showed us the way, not only by word, but more importantly by example.
Wow. I need to jump in here like right quick. First of all, condolences on the loss of your father at a young age. First things first there.
Thank you.
Second of all, how has your mother, or give us our audience a quality or a legacy of at least one thing your mother has impacted in you as a dad?
Wow. I would say uh, I literally just got off the phone with my mom a few minutes ago. I mean, we always finish the conversation with "I love you,"
Mm,
and so I would say, like every single solitary exchange I have with my sons, I always finish with "I love you," and I do the same with my wife. So I guess love, appreciation, kindness, the golden rule. Just um, treat others with respect. Always have time for people. Always try to be humble. Always be caring and be empathetic. So I guess those would be the qualities. My mom is a person of deep faith. Um, I try my best to be like that. I think my three brothers do the same. I don't know if any of us will ever live up to her, but I think you walk, you talk, and so I think if you met my mom, I think you'd say she's kind and caring and warm and friendly, um, welcoming, inclusive. Uh, just kind. And so to me, I think that those are, I always say that, that is a big part of who I am and what I'm about. So I think whoever I am and whatever I do, I think a lot of that comes naturally just from the foundation that was laid by her.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Drew, go ahead.
Well, it sounds like she was a really powerful influence, and as you said, built that incredible foundation in you and your brothers through challenging times, through difficulty, through uncertainty. And one of the things that you talked about was losing your dad at an early age. And I'm wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about what that process was like for you, and what the experiences you had to be able to um, build up off that foundation to overcome or work through what it felt like to not have your dad in your life.
It's interesting. I've been thinking about this. I run every day, so I ran this morning. But this Thursday night coming up, Big Brothers Big Sisters of Toronto is having a huge gala, and they asked me to be the MC, and they're honoring Dale Lastman, who's on our board of MLSC, who's an absolutely wonderful person, and I'm honored that I'm going to MC and Dale's being honored. He's just a tremendous person, and so I was a Big Brother, and I was on the board for Big Brothers in the Niagara region for many, many years. And when I was a basketball coach at Niagara, I had our players volunteer and do some things with Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Um, and I never had the opportunity to be in that program when I was a kid. But I'm not going to lie to you. I think it was difficult not having a dad, particularly, I loved basketball. I played basketball my whole life. I played baseball my whole life. And to go to games and not have your dad there, was, my mom would come. I mean, but she didn't really know sports. I mean, my parents are immigrants from Ireland, both of them. So I'm first generation. And my mom, would come occasionally. I think you go to a game now with kids and parents are at every game, you
Yeah.
know. Back when I grew up, occasionally parents were there, but parents worked, and it was just a different life. But to not have a dad there, and just the different things a young boy does with his dad and a young lady does with their dad are really important. And so I don't know if I've ever come to grips uh, with not having a dad. I think there are always moments that I look back on and I feel um, in some way that there was something missing. But overwhelmingly, having the person that my mom is in my life filled that void and some, and it fills it to this day. I feel very fortunate and blessed to have her in my life on a daily basis. Um, so I'm not going to lie to you. I found it to be difficult, but I had great support from my three brothers and relatives and my coaches and people in the community that were mentors. And I've always found myself, and maybe it's because I didn't have a dad, I've always found myself to be someone that respected older people and sought out advice and sought out mentorship. And I would, like I'm 59 right now. I have a lot of people, gentlemen that are in their 70s and 80s that I seek out their advice on career, uh, life, fatherhood, you name it, because they've had a longer runway. Like they've had some things they've gone through that maybe I hadn't gone through yet. So to this day, I feel like that's probably something that's helped me, and maybe it's trying to fill a little bit of that void. I don't know, but I've always felt like I've had the ability to connect with people, and I think the fact that I, started coaching at a young age, um, it kind of naturally led me to being in a position at a pretty high level, very high level, uh, to be as a 26-year-old Division I head coach. You're dealing with some very influential people uh, that are a lot older. So why wouldn't you take advantage of their advice and their guidance and their wisdom?
Hmm.
Cool. Man, we could go down this this highway for the rest of the conversation, but there's other things that no, but yeah, there's so much richness in what you've shared.
Let me
There's
hop in here and just
there's two
acknowledge.
ways I could go, but I'll
Yeah,
let you go, Drew.
I'll hop in here and just more of an acknowledgement of what you shared. Your story is, I hear a lot of similarities. So, I didn't really have my father growing up. I had a very powerful, strong, influential, faithful mother, who's to this day, I consider her my hero as well. And so there's a lot of similarities for me, but I also heard some really powerful things you shared about that last part about mentorship and surrounding yourself with people who can be a real powerful influence. And so I think that's the other thing. When we think about dads and helping raise successful confident kids, the power of an influence, even if a dad isn't around, is still important, and other men can fill those roles. So it could be an uncle, an older brother, it can be a grandfather, it can be a coach. For me, you talked about coaches. I feel so grateful for some of the coaches that I had because I was involved in sports as well, and those coaches played really significant roles for me in being able to establish standards of expectations, behavior that was certainly coming from expected at home, but I was like, oh, I'm not home. So there were really powerful influences that these other men in my life were able to play, and I think that that speaks to the value of what having those mentorship relationships, those, and the fact that you intentionally sought them out is an extremely powerful and important thing to do. And I think that that's what I encourage. I want to be around older dads. These conversations of hearing from dads who have done it longer, better, more, and have faced challenges that I'm probably going to face in the future is so powerful for me. And so anyways, I just wanted to acknowledge that those are really great principles
Yeah,
in what you've shared that I think of. I just love the fact that you shared them. So
yeah,
Yeah,
huge,
no,
huge.
and I don't even know if I was consciously doing it. I just did it. Like I just felt like it felt right. Like it felt right that that person is 27 years older than me or whatever, and they probably they probably have something to say that's pretty cool and interesting. And then, now that I'm 59 and I look back on my 25-year-old self or 35-year-old self or 15-year-old self, whatever, and there's so many things that kind of juggle around in my head that help me uh, kind of get through some difficult times or make good decisions. And no one bats 1,000. And as you guys know, there's no book for it. It's funny. I was reading Esquire
We've got a few
magazine,
books to try and help, but you're right. There's no book for it.
but there's no real, there's no right, because every kid is different. Like, you could have three. I have three sons. My wife and I adopted three boys. They're all different. And even if I had three biological sons, I couldn't love a biological son or daughter any more than I love my three sons. I'm so proud of my sons. I love them. And whether you have three adopted boys or three biological sons, it doesn't matter. They're all dramatically different.
Mhm.
But the standards that you set and the way you communicate with them, and you got to communicate with each one of them differently because they're all unique and they're all different and they all come at you in a different way. Uh, so I don't know. I mean, maybe my coaching background helped, but it's so. To this day, I learned so much as a dad uh, that I didn't know yesterday.
Mm.
It's a journey. There's no destination. I'm not going to end up someplace where there's a parade and people waving pom poms, nor Ed, you or Drew. None of us are going to end up in a place where it's no destination. It's a constant journey of discovery of not only ourselves but our own children, because they evolve, they grow, they change, and you have to grow with them.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that if we can. Ed, did you want to how you
Yeah,
wanted to
I
get into
thought
this?
I thought, Jack is such a pro. He gives such good segues. So I
I
had a
admit,
great you just talked about it. So I wanted to find out, could you talk to us about your journey about becoming a dad? Because you talked about journey. I said, wonderful. I heard the word, can get to segue. And what fears, hopes, and challenges come up in the process, and how did you manage when they did come up? Because you did share you adopted children. So it's a different journey than we've had of any other of our friends that have come on the show. So would love you to share that with our audience.
adoption is amazing. My wife and I, tried to have children. Unfortunately, we couldn't. And my wife was heartbroken about it. And I was like, hey, honey, I didn't marry you because of your biological ability to have children. I married you because I love you. Let's
Mm.
adopt. Well, let's adopt. Let's go for it. Let's do that. You know, uh, uh, you know, let's. We want to have kids. Let's have kids. And there's nothing standing in the way of it. Well, what's stopping us? Nothing's stopping us. So let's jump in wholeheartedly, 100% into that realm. And thank God we did. And we're so blessed to have our three sons. And it's been a blessing. It's been a journey and a challenge like any other parent. There's highs, there's lows, there's everywhere in between. There's twists, there's turns, there's ups and downs, and that's parenthood. And it's no different whether it's in a biological child or an adopted child. It doesn't matter. It's the same crazy journey, and we're thrilled to have those three boys. And people say, "Hey, what a nice thing you guys did." I'm like, "Are you crazy? They've made our life complete." We went from a couple to being a family. Those three guys made us a family. So I'm grateful to them. You know, so they've enriched our lives so much. And and you know how kids are today. I mean, all three of my boys are in their 20s, so I text them every morning. check in on them. And then, a few times a week, I chat with them on the phone. God forbid you talk to a kid on the phone every day, as you know. So, but I chat with them, each of them, once or twice a week on the phone. But they're independent young men now, living their life, and they're busy now. But it's been a blessing, and we're very, very grateful for the experience that we've had. And you just do the best you can, and we've tried our best to be as good a parents as we can be.
Uh, Something everything you're saying is so powerful, but that statement you made saying your three boys have made your life complete. It's a powerful, powerful statement.
Well, I guess the word legacy. Um, what's the old line? I heard this from a father, literally a father of one of my players that I coached in Brooklyn when I was a young coach, and he said to me, "Jack, always remember, a man can achieve great wealth, stature, and position in society, and yet fail as a person." And his point to me, he goes, "Jack, there's a big difference between being successful and being significant." He goes, "The more important thing is to be significant." And his point to me was, as a young coach, I was helping him as a father, being significant to his son, helping him grow, and helping his dad kind of back his message, that, hey, you know what? Your dad's right. You know what? You're rebelling right now, but hey, you know what? Your father's right. And you got to start listening to your dad. And you guys both made the point in your own way earlier. It's a tag team effort. Uh, there are so many times, Drew and Ed, that dads ask me, and many times moms ask me to chat with their daughter or their son about whatever they're going through, because I'm not them, if you know what I'm saying. Uh, I'm saying the exact same thing their mom or dad is saying, but I'm not their mom or their dad. It's coming from someone else. It's a different perspective. And yet it plays a significant role in shaping a young person's direction and the path that they take. And I think it's a responsibility of all of us, whenever we have an opportunity, to be able to help each other. Um, and I feel real as proud as I am of my three sons. I'm also proud when I meet their friends or kids in the community or people I've been around or work colleagues or whatever, that a lot of times you say something to them that resonates, that's significant. And I think it's really important to try to be significant and to play a significant role in your child's life. Again, am I perfect? Far from it. I have failed many, many times, as we all do. Uh, that's why they put erasers on pencils, right? And but you keep getting up every day, and you keep fighting the good fight, and you try your best to play a significant role, and try to guide them, and try to instill a good moral compass within them, that they, as they get out in the real world, can navigate. You're not going to be there every day holding their hand. Uh, one of the teachers at the grade school my kids went, she had a great analogy. She said, raising kids and helping kids grow is like flying a kite. You got to let a little rope go each bit. And sometimes that kite gets caught in the telephone pole or in a tree or whatever. And the bumps and bruises our kids take. But as you go along, you got to keep letting go of that string a little bit more and let them fly, you know. But in the meantime, it's our job to be significant and to mentor them and to challenge them and to have high standards for them. And many times, the most powerful word is no. No, that ain't right. I'm not putting up with that. I'm I'm your dad. I'm not your friend. I'm your dad. When you get into your 20s and 30s and you see the big picture, you'll understand that sometimes I had to take an unpopular stand and there had to be conflict. And conflict's a good thing because you're standing for certain things that have to be done the right way. And as they get older, they figure it out. So they're my legacy. They're our legacy. And when you have that much pride in that, that's a big deal. So to me, that you could say, hey, you've had two different careers in sports, you've done X, Y, Z. Who cares? All that is you've made money, you're on television, radio, you have a trophy. Who cares? That's nice, it's successful or whatever. And I've had plenty of failures as well. More important to me is what am I doing that's significant? And I think each and every dad looks at things that way. I hope and pray that because the success, it comes and goes. Trophies tarnish. It's just a job.
Yeah. So the take home message really is this idea of how are you pursuing significance as a dad? And one of the things that you touched on that I think is really interesting is how that father came to you and spoke to you and to help reinforce that message of significance and other important messages. And then you talked about it takes my summary is it takes a village.
Yep.
You've got all these other people. And so, but the responsibility is still on the parent to do that. And so could you talk a little bit more about how to work well with other people who are influential in your child's life to be able to maximize that relationship for your child's benefit as opposed to manipulate it or to make it confrontational? Because you hear a lot about parents who are a little bit overzealous, they're more arguing with coaches as opposed to working with. How can you maximize that relationship to be advantageous for your child's benefit and to reinforce positive things as opposed to alternative? Could you just talk a little bit about that?
I think it really just comes down to communication and being yourself and being authentic and real and sincere, um, and whether and creating good relationships. Uh, my late father-in-law had a great term. He said, "Jack, if you can get a pool." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "When you have a pool, all your son's friends come over to the house, or never discourage sleepovers." Because they come over to the house. But more importantly, you know who their friends are, and you
Mhm.
know what's going on. And then being able to create relationships with the parents of the kids that your kids are friends with, so that you're all able to kind of be in it together. And then there are going to be moments where I might say to a mom or dad of one of the friends of my kids, "Hey, can you do me a favor? We're going through this little challenge right now. If he's at your house and you pick up on that, I'd appreciate a little backup." And the same with their, like, "Hey, how can I help?" Hey, and so it's amazing how, to your point, it takes a village, how we can communicate. And many times in a coaching situation, a team situation, there are so many times where you have the opportunity. I'm a big believer in shoulder to shoulder communication. That when you're in a car and your son is sitting in the front seat with you, and it's just you and him, I turn the uh, radio off, no electronics, and it's just the two of us staring ahead. And it's amazing what kids will say to you, or go on a bike ride with them, or go for a walk with them. When they don't feel pinned down face to face, when you're in their face, it's amazing what they say to you. And it's the same thing when I might be driving my son and three of his teammates to a basketball game or a soccer game or whatever, and I try to have the radio off, and I tell them I don't want any phones, and we just have a conversation in the car that I kind of know maybe what's going on, And now you're able to kind of start a conversation, get them talking out loud. And it's amazing how you get them thinking. I mean, my biggest thing, it's funny, like when I speak at an event, I say, my theme is always food for thought. And I always say, if I could say one thing that helps you, I've done my job. If I do say more than one thing that helps, we've witnessed a miracle. But think about it. If you can plant a seed in an 11-year-old boy's head and just say, hey, I want you to think about this. Or maybe there's a group of them and say, you know what, here's the four of you in the car. And maybe there's a kid on the team that maybe isn't being treated the right way. Hey, you kind of say, okay, guys, how do you think he feels? Maybe instead of busting his chops, maybe he needs a hug. Maybe he's going through a tough time at home. How can you four guys be good teammates and maybe help bring him closer to the group? And there's so many different ways, but you constantly have to have your spidey senses tuned in, and you have to really be alert to things. And you can't be too wrapped up in your own little world. And there are times, I'm not going to lie to you, that I failed at that because the job that I'm in, I travel a lot, and then you show up and, my wife and kids got the thing rolling. And now you show up, they're like, hey, man, you're in the way. You've been out of town for 9 days, and now you parachute in for 36 hours, and then you're going on another road trip with the Raptors. You're getting in the way. You're messing this up. So you also got to come in a very subtle way and kind of just be all eyes and all ears. But sometimes you come in and you don't have the pulse for what's going on. So you have to always try your best. And again, I've failed many, 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 many times to try to get a sense of what's going on. And many times I got my finger on the pulse, and many other times I haven't. And shame on me when I haven't.
So how do you not react in those moments? Because I think that many dads might be able to relate to that. Hey, I'm traveling for work. I'm away, but they come in. They're like, oh, I got to be dad, and I got to. So talk to me about that,
It's
because I
hard.
think that's important right there.
It's hard. It's funny. I think I mentioned it the last time I was on with you guys. I used the term rules without relationships equal rebellion.
Bulletin board material, Jack.
Yep.
That's
Rules
so
with
good.
relationships equal respect and results. So I think you have to work really hard when you travel. Now, I'm old school, and this is a different era, but I think now, like dads today can do, like, you could actually physically see your kid on video. And a lot of the young dads I travel with now, they'll be on the phone when we're on the bus or we're in the airport, we're hanging out in the hotel or at the arena, whatever, and they're FaceTiming with their kids. I think that's really important. And texting them. I was a big believer, and I used to send my kids the quote of the day every day. Just food for thought. Let's reflect on this. I tried when I did get home to be the one driving them to a sports event or to school or picking them up from school, whatever, or a dentist appointment, a doctor appointment. And of course, my wife did, my wife had her own career. And my wife was just absolutely amazing running the house and raising 3 boys. And again, I travel a lot, but it's hard. But you have to work. You got to work as hard as you can when you're on the road to stay as in tune as possible. Talking a few times a day to your wife, having a quiet moment every day for her to update you on what's going on, and also communicating with your kids every day. But it ain't easy, and it's a lot of it's trial and error, and it's years and years of trial and error. And I'll never forget one time I was, when I travel with the Raptors, we stay at very nice hotels, not because of me, because of the NBA collective bargaining agreement. We always stay at very nice hotels. So my wife, I'll never forget when she said to me one time, she goes, I'm home here with these 3 knucklehead boys, and you're at the Ritz-Carlton in Boston. She said, Do they have the little candies on the pillow when you get there? And is the music playing nicely when you check in your room? I'm home here with these three idiots putting up with them. So there are times where there's stress because your significant other's going through trying to manage a crazy household of school, sports, social, you name it, and you're not there right now. And then when you parachute back in, uh, hey, your needs come last, not first. It's their needs that come first. And again, I've failed many times, but you just do the best you can. Um, and at the same time, you have a career, and that pays the bills too, and that's important as well. But as we all know, the job doesn't love us back. So that's the thing I've learned more and more. I love what I do for a living. I love my job. I love my career. It's awesome. I'm so appreciative to the people I work for and work with. And, your family is ultimately number one.
Nice. Nice. Want to ask you, what's been your greatest challenge as a dad? I'm glad you took a
Hmm.
sip of water before you answered.
You guys are hitting me with some deep stuff here. My greatest challenge as a dad has probably been probably not to. I grew up differently, you know. Uh, I grew up in a different era. I grew up a different way because I grew up in a one-parent home. Um, I grew up poor. And my children have grown up in a much more comfortable lifestyle in a two-parent home with two parents with a career that maybe I did. So how they see the world is different than how I see the world, and what their expectations are different than what mine were. Um, Also, the fact that my wife and I are white and we raised three African American boys, um, navigating that space and, what they're experiencing and what they're going through and having a sensitivity to that. And the benefit for me growing up in the inner city in New York and Brooklyn and the melting pot of New York City and being able to have an appreciation and understanding. Growing up, playing basketball, coaching basketball, uh, being around a lot of folks that are African American or Hispanic or whatever, uh, has given me a greater appreciation of diversity and inclusion and an understanding of the different experiences. Yet I've had moments where I didn't get it, and I've had to learn from my colleagues or former players or whatever. Uh, I've had, I would bring the boys when they're little over to one of my players for them to cut their hair and all, like little things that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've never had an afro, it's just little things uh, that you learn that are really cool, and then you end up having a lot of laughs over, and you end up experiencing some really cool stuff, and at the same time, so also some very difficult stuff. That the world's a tough place, and it's a different place for them than maybe it was for me, and maybe the challenges I thought I had and uh, difficulties I had, their difficulties and challenges are different than the ones I have. So that I guess the best way to put it is that one size doesn't fit all, and that they're unique and they're different and they're beautiful, and I love them for who they are and who they're becoming. Um, and It's just, I don't know. You do the best you can with it, and you try as best as you can. As much as there are books about it, there is no true book, like because one size doesn't fit all. And
Right.
every kid is different, and every family's different, and every situation's different. But I think if we try to, I think having a partnership with your wife or your significant other is really important. That partnership together is important because kids love to poke holes in it. Good
Mhm.
cop, bad cop. You got to have a partnership. You got to stand together. There are times you got to be firm. There are other times you got to kind of be more flexible. There are going to be times you disagree with your partner vehemently about an approach that we're going to use or not use with one of our children. But you got to find a way to come to a consensus. And some battles you win, some battles you lose. But you got to have a partnership, and you got to have a partnership with the other parents, as I mentioned earlier, because Drew, to your point, it does take a village.
Mhm.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Got another question for you. You've had a long and great professional career, playing, coaching, commentating. How has that helped you with your fatherhood, especially the coaching you did? Did that help you with your fatherhood? Has that helped you with your fatherhood journey?
Yes, definitely, because I think athletics is an amazing thing. It teaches so much discipline. The one regret I have, my two older boys, Kevin and Brian, when I left coaching, were really young, so they've been in the gym with me, but they wouldn't remember much, if anything. They and my youngest guy, Tim, we hadn't adopted him yet when I was coaching. So that's kind of like my one regret is they didn't grow up in the gym with me because it's the old thing. I love being around young people that are a coach's daughter or a coach's son. There's so much that they learn from not their dad, but from the other coaches and from the players and from the staff that help support dad. It's remarkable that a lot of you talk to young people that whose dad was a coach in whatever sport, and as much as they look up to their dad, they look up to the other coaches the dad worked with, and a lot of the athletes and a lot of the staff members, and it creates that village. So yeah, but no doubt the discipline and the regimen and the standards and the expectation, high achievement takes place in the area of high expectation. That there are standards of behavior and action and how we do things. So to me, I think that really helps. And the fact, I don't know if you know this, but my wife was a Division I head coach as well. My wife was the women's soccer coach at Niagara University, where I was the head coach, and that's where we met. And she was also Division I women's basketball assistant. So she gets it too. And funny because I travel for a living. My wife coached my sons in basketball and soccer. So there'd be games. I would go. When I was home, I'd come to the games and sit in the stands. They're like, "Oh, that's the guy from the Raptors, or that's the ex-coach." And he's there. What's that lady, his wife, doing coaching? And I'm like, and you'd have this guy down on the other sideline going, "This, what are you kidding me? This guy's coach, this lady's coaching a bunch of these guys." And I'm like, if you really, she'll coach circles around you. I mean, she's done it at a high level. You haven't, buddy. Uh, but the fact is, both of us did it, and we have dealt with and had the good fortune to be with so many young people. I mean, I've coached grade school, high school, and college basketball. I've
Wow.
never coached pro basketball, but I've been in the NBA. Next season will be my 25th year with the Raptors, my silver anniversary. And
Congratulations.
thank you. I haven't gotten there yet.
I'm speaking it. I'm speaking it.
Congratulations, yes.
uh, but it's um, the things that you learn and the things that I learned and my wife learned coaching other people's kids and watching parents raise their kids, the do's, the don'ts, and everywhere in between. and our influence and our impact and our significance in terms of helping shape young ladies and young guys as they get navigate the life experiences. Uh, I still to this day stay in touch with so many of the players that I coached. And there's no greater I could care less about, hey, helping you with your jump shot or ball handling or whatever. But when they say something to you like, hey, man, you don't remember this, but when I was 21 and this happened and that happened, and you wouldn't let me quit, or you wouldn't let me feel sorry for myself, or you challenged me to be better, or you wouldn't put up with my BS, and you wouldn't let it, you wouldn't cave, you wouldn't give in, you wouldn't kiss my butt. You made me better. You saw the better in me that I didn't see in myself. That to me is incredible. That's what it's all about. And you want to do the same thing with your kids. Is that you want to challenge them to be the best they can be at whatever they do, and you want to support them. You want to be there when they fall down, and you want to encourage them and challenge them to get back up. And I always had a rule. My wife always had a rule. You join a sports team, you join anything, you start the season, you see it through to the end. I don't care how tough it is. The word quit doesn't exist.
True.
Well, that's like a exclamation point at the end of just a fantastic conversation. But I want to ask one more question before we finish today. And if you could share with us, what would you consider, Jack, as your proudest moment as a dad?
Wow. I don't know if there's a moment. I would say there's like what's the old line? Your heart always knows before your brain.
Mm.
I'm not really smart. Uh, I feel like I can feel it in my soul though. I feel really good about my sons.
Mm.
I guess that's the thing I'm most proud of is I'm proud of them that when other people meet them,
Mm.
the most important thing, like my middle son who lives in Nashville was in New York for meetings, and he went and visited my mom. And we're taping this on Monday. So my son went to visit my mom on Friday, his grandma. And he spent a few hours with her and then went back into Manhattan. Uh, but I talked to my mom Saturday morning, and she said to me, "What a gentleman."
Mm.
And she has said that about each one of my sons. That's what it's all about.
Mm.
That you're raising gentlemen, that they understand the golden rule. They treat people with respect. They're kind, they're caring, they're loving, they're gracious, they're grateful. Um, they're nice young men. So there's no moment, but the moment that matters to me is when they are around people or when I meet people that know my sons and they say that to me, there's no greater feeling. That's my legacy.
Mm.
That they don't look like me. They're not wired like me, but a part of me is within them, and a part of my wife is within them, and more importantly, a, a part of each of them are within us. We're a family, and they've made me a better person. They've made me a better father, a better husband, a better son, a better brother, a better colleague, whatever. And I hope I've been able to help them. But I guess to answer your question, there's no moment. There's just a feeling in your heart, in your soul that, like, wow, that's pretty cool. That, hey, you spent a few minutes with my son and he gave you that feeling. And it was a good feeling, and so that is the ultimate. That is the absolute ultimate to me. That really matters, and I would think that when I My mother always used to say, your family name really matters. You represent our family. How you carry yourself as a young man matters because you're a reflection of the upbringing I've provided for you, and you're a reflection of your brothers. You are reflecting uh, everything within your life, your family, your friends. That family name matters. Who you are and how you carry yourself as a young man really matters. So I guess again, it probably comes from my mom and my wife. Her parents were just absolutely amazing, amazing people. They both passed away recently, and just I was so fortunate to have a lot of years with them. And they were very strong, faithful, kind people, very giving and caring. And think about it. I mean, my uh, parents are from Ireland. My wife's mom is from Italy, and my dad, her dad, is first generation from Italy. And their grandchildren are these three little African American boys. And they have other grandchildren as well. And they have welcomed those three boys and loved those boys incredibly. And, and I know my sons feel that love and connection and appreciation and that brotherhood and that just that feeling, that bond of family. So that's what you try to do for your kids and extended family, all those kind of things. So, but to answer your question, I apologize if I'm going around in
Mhm.
tangents. But it's that feeling in your gut when someone else comes up to you and says, "Ed, Drew, wow, what a great young lady she is. What a great young man he is. Wow." I mean, it just that that's the ultimate. That's why we do it. And each day we're letting it go a little bit more and more of that string on the kite, and we're letting them spread their wings and letting them fly. So, and again, uh, I've failed a lot of times, but when young dads ask me, um, you try to give them the ins and outs and the failures and the successes. And as I said before, there's no real, true, ultimate right or wrong book on it. It's just a feeling that you got in your gut, and you do the best you can. And you rely on each other, and each dad has to, and we got to pick each other up. We got to help each other. We got to help kids because it's really hard today being a kid.
Good stuff. Oh man, can I get one more out of you?
Sure.
You grew up without a father, and I know how important fatherhood is for you. Could you share a message for the dads out there that don't have a mentor or a father in their life?
Wow. Um, Seek out mentorship somehow, some way. Find people that are around you, and and be a little vulnerable and say, you know what, I need your help. I need your guidance. I need your wisdom. I don't know. I don't know. It's the whole line. I want to not only be in the right church, I want to be in the right pew. You know, I don't know where I am right now. Like, I don't know what path to take. I don't know if I'm in the right pew. Um, Here's what I'm going through. Can you give me a little perspective? I need a little and it takes a lot to be willing to do that and make yourself vulnerable. But as I said earlier, I don't know if it was a conscious thing on my part, but I've always sorted out that I've always felt that um, that person or those people might say something that clicks, that helps me, and helps me take the right path. So I'm so grateful to all those men in my life that helped me, coaches, parents of players that I coached, colleagues at work, people in my community that kind of help shape who I am and help support the mission that my mom had was to raise four boys by herself. She, she did an A+ job raising four boys. Um, and but finding those people in your life is so it's really important to do it. It's really important to, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it now. Uh, when someone says, "Hey, can you talk to my daughter? Can you talk to my son?" Um, and young people all the time will say, "Hey, Mr. Armstrong, can I?" And I hate when they call me Mr. Armstrong. I feel old. Not that old. Maybe I am. I don't know what I am. But when they say, "Hey, can I meet you for a cup of tea, cup of coffee?" I said, "Sure." I always they'll be I'll have a Raptor game or whatever, and I'll meet them at the coffee shop next door to the arena and sit for 45 minutes and chat. And a lot of times it's career stuff. They want to be a coach or they want to be a broadcaster, but many times when you get to the core of it, it has nothing to do with either one of them. It has everything to do with the fact that like they don't know who they are and what they want to be and what the path they want to take. And you just try to encourage them to take the right path. And but the other thing too is, as you guys know, we can all talk a good game, but it's our example that counts. It's our actions that count, and how we carry ourselves on a day-to-day basis. Kids sniff out BS. Kids sniff out phoniness, and if you're not authentic, and if you're not real. So to me, that so I but it's really important to definitely seek that out.
Drew, I think we're good.
Well, I think that this has been a masterclass in giving you the specific tools that you need to be raise successful kids. I mean, there's been so much practical insight, wisdom, stories. So I just want to say thank you so much, Jack, for making the
Thank
time
you,
for us,
Jack.
for
Yeah.
coming into this conversation, for sharing your stories, your experience, and modeling that vulnerability that you just talked about, and modeling the idea of how to get better at this process, and recognizing you can make mistakes, but it's what you do after the mistake that matters most. And so I just want to say thank you so much for being
Yeah.
here and being part of the show.
Thank you,
Well,
Jack. Huge.
I appreciate. Thank you. And I heard a term a few years ago was really cool. You know, we're perfectly imperfect. And accepting that, and accepting the fact that you don't have all the answers is a big part of it. And being able to look in the mirror and admit it when when you got to change course and when you got to try try something different is really a big thing. And when you use the term class, I don't know if it's a master class. I just uh, because, as I said earlier, one size doesn't fit all. And
Yeah.
my viewpoint and my life and my experience of what I've done as a dad doesn't necessarily fit the situation maybe someone else is going through. But I agree that if we could all support each other and Ed and Drew, what you guys are doing and trying to get the message out, and the good folks at Dove, um, I think it's a wonderful thing. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. We're always better after a conversation with you, Jack. We are, and I want to say to you and your family, thank you for what you have done, are doing, and will be doing in the future. And thank you so much. And never be afraid to reach out if there's anything we can help you with.
Thank you very much, guys, and appreciate it, Ed and Drew. And it was an honor and privilege to be on with you. And have a wonderful day, and see you guys soon.
Take
Excellent.
care,
Thank
Jack.
you,
Have a
Jack.
great day. Wow, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. Like I'm full in a good way. I'm full in a good way. I absolutely love it. Drew, what'd you take home from that?
I think I'll summarize it just by, coachability and humility. I think that what I heard from Jack today talks to dads to say, how can we be coachable as dads? How can we learn and grow and focus on providing what our children need? And how can we do it in a spirit of humility, so that we can recognize that what our children need is most important, and set aside what maybe we're dealing with or what's going on with us in service of their greater good, because that's what's going to help them as they grow and help them be successful in the end. So coachability and humility is my summary takeaway from Jack.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'll add into what you say is humble, 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 very humble. I thought was very is just like yes, we're doing it on a screen, but I just felt like I was just sitting on a park bench or
Hmm.
sitting at a picnic table, just shooting the breeze and just the humbleness, that really he's very powerful at that. And he just he's a human being. And
He
that's
walks the walk
yeah,
and walks
absolutely.
the talk, if you want to say. Yeah.
Yeah, man, he does it. So everyone who's watching, thank you again for your continued support. It's appreciated, not taken for granted. If you want to catch more episodes, dadcentral.ca/podcasts. Resources. We have a lot of free resources for fathers and those who love them and families when it comes to raising great and wonderful children. And comments, we love them. Podcasts at dadcentral.ca. And as always, the Dad Central Show is sponsored by Doveman Plus Care. Doveman Plus Care believes care is the best of a man, because when men care for themselves and others, there is a positive impact. Want to say again, thank you for watching. Fathers and those who love them, we love you, we care for you, and you are a great asset to the world. We'll see you on the next conversation. God bless, peace to well, and keep the faith.